rocking out to a little Alanis Morissette this morning. I just love that song. It's called Tapes. And if I can actually get it right, we're going to play a little bit more after the show. But tapes in my head swirl around, bringing my vibe down. All these tapes in my head aren't my own, wreaking havoc. And my very first therapy job at Aventura Hospital, Aventura Behavioral Health, just about across the street from where I'm living now, I used to read the lyrics to the people in group therapy there. And we would play the song because so many of us, in fact, I feel it's pretty safe to say that all of us have these negative tapes that swirl around, bringing our vibes down, that messages, these tapes that are messages that are not my own, wreaking havoc. And I've really come to realize this week of clients that I just completed, or it's not totally complete, I have a couple today, but after this week of clients that, most of us, unfortunately, don't feel that great about ourselves. And even when we do feel really great about ourselves, we're still rating ourselves. And it winds up that there's a chatter that's swirling around in our heads, in our brains, and it is bringing our vibes down because it's not usually a good chatter. And underneath that chatter, those negative things that we say about ourselves, we start believing them, because if enough people tell us that we're not good enough, that we'll never amount to anything, that we're not lovable, that we're not good enough, you start to believe it. And those are some of the negative thoughts that Alanis Morissette is talking about when we were just like rocking out to her this morning. Brilliant song. She's a brilliant writer, brilliant musician, but man, she hit it. This is the problem that we all have. And as long as those thoughts are swirling around in our head, those tapes are swirling around in our head, it's very hard to get ahead, and it's very hard to have healthy relationships, and it's very hard to grow because we're being constantly held down by these negative messages that we did not create, that somebody told us about ourselves, or maybe multiple people told us about ourselves, or maybe, the messages of a childhood trauma told us about ourselves, and we believe it. And so we're going to talk about that today. Happy Saturday, Liz Live viewers. It's wonderful to see everybody and see everyone on Instagram. It just gives me, it just makes me so happy to be able to do this and to think that maybe, just maybe, I might have a little baby impact on just one person's life. It's such an honor. So, the vibes are moving. So let's talk about the negative tapes, what they look like, where they come from, and how to get rid of them. Okay, so what are negative tapes exactly? What are they exactly? What do I mean by that? And I want to just say another little add-in. If you have a therapist that isn't willing to do his or her own work on themselves, switch therapists, because I just did some really cool work on myself this weekend. Just about, look, this is, I write books and books. I'm always trying to be better because I can only take my clients where I can go. And so I have to make sure that I'm in tip-top shape so I can be awesome for my clients. So I was doing some, just for fun and to, kind of work on myself, I decided that I wanted to look at my belief system and my tapes when it comes to money. And it was really fascinating what I discovered. Really couldn't believe what I discovered. I always thought that, I had, I'm a very modern woman. I'm very liberated as far as, taking care of myself and all of those things. So I thought when it came to money, I had, the same outlook. But when I really sat down, hold on a second. Sorry. Come on, you never do anything wrong. Come on. Sorry, the Shih Tzu is always perfect. I don't know what's with her today. So I really started looking at what my belief system is about money. And I'm not going to share exactly what I discovered, but what I discovered in part of that work is that somewhere in my belief system, I feel like I could never really make it without a partner, without a man helping me in some way. And it's almost embarrassing for me to admit, but when I really wrote it all down, it's the truth. And I thought, how could somebody like me, who's never been supported by a man ever, and has always made my own money, and you know, maybe a little help from mama, but that was my only partner I ever had. You know, what is that? How could I possibly believe that? And is that holding me back? And I think that it's something, so I started to go a little deeper, and I go, well, where did I get that idea? Because it's not ever been the truth of my life. It's not ever something I even think about, that I'm even conscious of. So where the heck did I get that idea? How did that even get into my brain, into my tapes? And I thought about it, and I go, oh, that came from mother dear. That came from my mom, and maybe my dad, and maybe my brothers, and maybe my family, because at that day and age, when they were growing up, that was the truth. Women couldn't really make it on their own. Hold on. Sorry, stop. Hey. They really couldn't make it on their own. Or so they were told they really couldn't make it on their own. And the whole, idea behind marriage, even if you look at it from the very beginning, marriage was basically created out of a law that said one person can't hold property by themselves. So people got married, so they had two people on the property. But anyway, wow, I couldn't believe I actually thought that, but I did, and I didn't even know I thought that until 2 days ago. So when we're thinking about those negative tapes, we may not even be aware that they're there. And so it's really something that you have to really sit down and think about. And the most common negative tapes that I hear from clients are, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, I'll never get what I want, nobody will ever love me, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not chiseled enough, I'm not rich enough. All of these tapes swirling around, like Alana said, bringing my vibe down, wreaking havoc in your head. And we all have these things that are swirling around, these tapes, and until we really sit down and think about, whoa, wow, what am I actually thinking subconsciously, and connect it to the way we're feeling and to what we're sort of manifesting in our lives, we're kind of just lost. We're lost. And what I do when I'm talking to clients, and I have so many clients that tell me, they tell me these stories from childhood, these stories of abuse and, sexual abuse and physical abuse and verbal abuse and from their own parents. And it's awful, some of the stories that I hear, that human beings can actually act this way towards their own children or their own family, but it happens. I'd say, okay, let's look at that. Let's look that you are a victim of abuse, okay? And I hate the word victim, and I actually never use it, but let's say you experienced abuse as a child, verbal, emotional, physical, whatever. What are the implied messages as a young child who was abused? And what are the implied messages? That's always a killer question to ask, no matter what the situation is, because you're asking yourself, what did that experience leave me thinking about myself? What did it make me think about myself or believe about myself? So if we take a child who was abused, let's say physically, sexually, emotionally, they're all bad. The child most likely is going to be left thinking, I don't matter, I am an object, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me, I can't trust anyone, I'm ugly, I have no value. And those are the basic implications of child abuse. And child abuse is particularly awful because you're abusing an innocent being, a being that didn't hurt you, that couldn't do anything to protect itself. So when you think about those implications on that level, it's very obvious and it's very easy to understand, right? It's very easy to understand the implications and the messages that somebody would think about themselves if they were abused as children or abused in their own marriages or their own relationships. So now let's take it even further and let's have everyone watching look in the mirror for a second. What messages, we call them meta messages in psychology, when meta means beyond, right? So what is the message beyond the message? What is the message that you got from mom and dad, from brothers and sisters, from kids at school, from culture, from boyfriends, girlfriends, media, blah, 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 on and on and on. They're countless. But what they all come down to is create those messages, those meta messages, create a system of thinking and a system of belief about yourself that holds you back because deep inside you don't think you deserve it, or you don't think you're capable. You don't think you're capable. And you might be very surprised when you start mapping this stuff out like I did, what you come up with. You know, I had a really bad, and still recovering from, I feel like a baby because I keep talking about it, but I had a horrible shoulder injury that I've been sort of nursing all week. This is the first day I feel like kind of normal. And so I had to take a couple of days off work, and I was miserable. But I figured, well, if I'm not working on other people, I might as well work on myself. And so I did. And so I uncovered all of this interesting stuff, and I could not wait to share it with you. And so everyone think right now, what are those tapes that swirl around? And notice that they swirl around particularly strong in the presence of certain people. So for example, let's say you know, were very mistreated by a lover, okay? And you stay with them, and then you're in their presence. How are you going to feel? How are you going to feel about that? You're going to feel uncomfortable, and you're going to feel like all of those things in all of those ways that they made you feel, you're going to feel that in that moment, and you're going to start adopting that and agreeing to it. Agreeing to, yes, you know what? I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough. I don't make enough money. I'm not handsome. They'll never love me. Of course they'll leave me. They'll find somebody better. I'll bore them. All those tapes and all those messages that swirl around and bring your vibe down, as Alanis Morissette says it. So it struck me this week. I have all these young, beautiful, loving, wonderful clients, and I really mean that sincerely. I really do have one hell of a group of clients, and I hear they share with me their deepest thoughts and their deepest feelings, and it really it's trifling actually when you hear how they have agreed to these negative messages being true about themselves. So let's say you're watching this show and you're not feeling very confident about yourself. You're not feeling very good about your body. You're not feeling very good about your accomplishments in your profession. You're not feeling very good about, you know, the role you play in family, and you're not good enough at sports, or you're not pretty enough for this guy, or you're too fat for that guy, or you're too poor for that girl, or whatever's going on in your mind. Stop a minute and get a notebook. All right? And what I did was I literally wrote down, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what I did. And if you're my client and you're watching, we're going to do this coming week because it's so cool. I wrote down old beliefs about money, old belief system about money. And I popped out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 different beliefs that I had that I didn't even know I had about money. So just imagine, okay, that if you said, okay, let's say you want to do body image. Let's say you want to do, success, relationships, whatever. Old belief systems, and be honest and write down all the beliefs you have about it. And then on the other page, I wrote new beliefs about money. So I couldn't make new beliefs about money and change my vibe until I looked at my old belief system first. So, like I said, the old belief system, not only is it untrue, and not only are we responsible at some degree because we agreed to it when somebody said it to us, so we're very responsible for it in a way. They were messages that were implanted in our brains from somebody else who had those issues. So if your mother told you that you would never amount to anything, it's probably because she never thought she amounted to anything. But you took that message from mom, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you agreed to it. You went, yep, mom's right. I'm never going to amount to anything. And then guess what happens? You start living your life as though, well, you're never going to amount to anything anyway, so why try? And so if we start looking in the mirror and we start mapping all this out, it's shocking when we realize how much we have done this to ourselves. Not our fault, no judgment, but we have literally agreed to what other people have told us about ourselves. So if you think about all the messages you've gotten in your whole life about the world, where did they come from? They came from mom and dad. They came from school. They came from culture, media, social media for kids today, and even for non-kids. I'm sure I digest some of those messages too. So we get them from parents, family, kids at school, culture, teachers, media, movies, which is part of media. Hollywood sends out a lot of negative messages. The messages about beauty and image are just atrocious that are out there right now for our young women who are trying to be sane in this world. They go on and on and on. So when you start mapping out all those negative thoughts that you have about yourself, I always ask my clients, well, who told you that? And they look at me and they go, well, what do you mean? Who told me that? No, really, who told you that you sucked? Who told you that you would never amount to anything? Who told you you were stupid? Who told you you would never be enough? Somebody had to tell you that. You weren't born believing that about yourself. And then if they still don't get it, I say, okay, let's take all of your abuse, let's take your whole abuse experience out of the conversation and let's pretend like it never happened. Now how do you feel about yourself? And they go, oh, I get it. Because if you're abusers or you're torturers or you're teasers or you're, maybe just loving family who were just, messing around or, just things you saw in movies and TV or whatever, if you took all of that out and your messages about self only came from you, they'd be completely different. They wouldn't look similar. They wouldn't be similar. They would be so much more positive. And so what I think I'm getting at, what I'm trying to convey, is that all those negative tapes that play over and over and over and over and over again, and we go, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. And then we start living that. We start living that we're less than. We pick the wrong people to date. We make the wrong decisions in business. We don't pursue our dreams. We have, strained or destructive relationships with other people. And usually that all stems from the belief we have about us. and the negative messages that were implanted in our brains by those in society and those in our family that have really nothing to do with anything that we ever did or said or deserved. And so if we don't unpack that and we don't uncover that, then you will wind up living that out. I want to make sure that I'm being very clear about what I'm saying. So I'm going to try and say it one more time before we kind of take this subject to the next level. So what I'm asking everybody to do who's watching is to map out their belief systems. And I am sharing that this week, because of an injury, I was out of work. And so I decided to work on me. And to make sure, if you go to a therapist, that these are therapists who are constantly working on themselves, because if they're not, then they're limited in what they can give you, by the way. So I mapped out my belief system, old belief system about money. And I was shocked at what I actually believed. I had no idea I believed this. I'll share some of them with you. Only certain people can make it. You have to work yourself to death to deserve it. You'll never be wealthy or successful on your own. Single women can't be wealthy without a man's help. I couldn't believe I thought that. I was so embarrassed, but it's in my brain. I don't deserve it. I honestly don't know what it feels like to have a lot of it. I just don't deserve it, right? And so I think when you're in the helping professions, it's sad. Isn't it sad? I just read that publicly. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's what I actually believed. And let me tell you something. I had no idea I believed that. None. I was shocked when I wrote it down. I went, oh my gosh. I can't believe this is really what I think, you know? And I'm encouraging you to do the same. And maybe your belief system, you know, at 45, you know, that's something that I really wanted to take a look at. But if you're younger or whatever, it doesn't matter how old you are, and you're thinking about working on a certain part of yourself, let's say it's self-image, you could say old beliefs, you can map down on a piece of paper, old belief systems about, you know, my body. And I guarantee you what you're going to find is, if I don't have a perfect body, nobody will love me. I'm useless if I'm not thin. I'll never meet anyone if I'm not brawn. I can't compare to other women. You know, blah, 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 blah. And you can say old belief systems about my capability or my intellectuality or whatever. And you're going to be, I'm telling you, you're going to be shocked at what you discover. And I want you to share with me because I want to be able to give you some feedback. So if you do this exercise on your own and you want to send it to me via email, it'll be confidential and I'll read through it and I'll give you some feedback. So what I'm learning is that when you actually have these belief systems, you're not aware of it. You become aware of it, then you can change it. Because you can see how ridiculous it is, and you can see that all of that belief system you have came from not you, but came from people around you when you were little and you were growing up. That's where it came from. And we can also look at it even, not that I want to get political today, and I'm not going to, but if you look at political beliefs, okay, whether you're, you know, a liberal, a conservative, somewhere in the middle, libertarian, blah, blah, whatever you are politically, whatever your belief system is, that belief system came from somewhere. You didn't just come up with it. You did not just come up with it. So you could even map out your political belief systems. And the beauty of that just might be that, oh my God, you know, I have all these tapes playing about these political belief systems that I have, and I see that they kind of came from, you know, I always say aliens that not literal aliens, but, just, for sake of, explaining, like these little beings came and planted these ideas in your head and you agreed to them and you said, yes, that's correct. But when you actually break it down to where your belief systems came from, you might be very surprised. Or you may find that your political beliefs come from, something your parents told you, or something that you actually went through that was maybe very painful or very traumatic, or the way that you live your life. But it might help you be a little more understanding towards people that have different belief systems than you, because we're all just we are like walking baskets of belief systems. And when you realize that, it's actually very exciting, because if you've adopted and agreed to some belief systems, you can always believe in new belief systems. You can always say, well, you know what, that doesn't work for me at 45. Maybe it worked for me when I was 20, but it doesn't work for me now. Maybe that worked for me when I was 30, but it's not working for me when I'm 50 or 60. And I think one of the major belief systems that we all share as human beings is that if I'm not enough, and no one can ever define enough, but I hear this all the time, if I'm not enough, then nobody will love me, I'll be left by the people I love, I'll never be good enough, and I'll never amount to anything. And I think that's a worldly belief system that we get from culture in different ways, and that we're all deathly afraid of, not being enough, not being loved, not being successful in mom and dad's eyes, or culture's eyes, or community's eyes, or family's eyes. So I'm telling you, if you do what I'm asking you to do and you map out your belief systems, you're going to be blown away, if you're being honest about what it is you actually believe. Now, why are these belief systems so dangerous? Why are they so dangerous? So this gets into, I guess, an area that I would say is a little bit, it's kind of out of the, counseling psychology realm, but maybe more so in the, quantum physics realm. But, as a therapist, I'm open to everything and anything that is helpful for people. And so I read all kinds of stuff and I listen to all kinds of things, because I want to always be learning and growing so that I can share that growth and that knowledge with the people who seek me out for help, for counseling. So I've been on a kick lately about understanding, the quality of the energy and vibrations in which we put out into the world. And it's something I've always been fascinated by, and something I've always believed in, and something that I've always read a ton of books about, And I really made the connection when I did this exercise with myself about my belief systems, about what maybe Alanis Morissette means when she says, all these tapes in my head swirl around, bringing my vibe down. What is my vibe? What does that mean? What does that mean? We say, like, oh, it's good vibes, bad vibes. What does that mean? Well, every thought that we have is energy, in a sense. Everything is energy. I'm giving my energy right now through this microphone. The sound waves are traveling through my system all the way out to you, wherever you are listening, and wherever you are participating. So everything is kind of energy. So I explain it like this too. So if I make a phone call from my cell phone to one of you right now, and I hit send and it starts ringing you, do you see the actual call going all the way out into the world, up to the satellite and back down to your telephone? Of course not. But we know it's there. We understand the science behind it, sort of, the physics behind it, how that works. I mean, I actually don't, but we have an understanding that, if we call someone's phone number on our cell phone, that call is energy that goes out, and somehow someone gets a little ding, ding, ding on their phone, and then all of a sudden we're talking to each other. It's amazing, right? So if we have that, and we understand that energy, just because we don't see energy doesn't mean it doesn't exist, then we can sort of agree that it's quite possible that our thoughts have energy. And we know in medicine, and we know in psychiatry and psychology and counseling, we know that a proven fact, proven by fact, is that when we have stress, when we are under stress, we're thinking negative thoughts, which creates the stress. We actually secrete stress hormones, which actually suppress many things in our body, including our immune system. And we tend to get very sick. So if you think about the most stressful times in your life, you probably got a bad cold, you got a flu, you pulled a muscle because your muscles are so tense all the time, right? So it's not debatable that our thoughts are connected to our immune system. It's proven scientific fact. Look it up on PubMed. You can find lots and lots of articles, lots of studies that have proven this to be true. And it's something that I think we all just accept. We know that. So if we know that to be true, then we know that there has to be some sort of energy that is created or that is coming from the things that we think. Okay, so if I think life is beautiful, I feel better, right? I feel, oh, okay, that's a nice sound to it, probably because it has a nice energy to it. It's a good energy. It's not stressful, you know. If I say to people, oh my gosh, I love you, or oh, you're beautiful, or I give someone a compliment, it feels so good. And when someone gives us a compliment or, you know, a loving statement, we feel good about it. It makes us feel good. So I'm assuming, although I don't know that I can prove it, but I'm assuming that our thoughts come with a lot of energy, and energy that not only affects our immune system and our physical health, but also affects what kind of energy and vibes, if you want to call it, we're putting out into the universe. And so if you think of all the billions of people in the world and all of the thoughts that everybody's having and all of the energy that's swirling around all over the place that we cannot see, we have to understand that that energy has to affect us in some way. And I'm sure we've all had an experience of where maybe we've walked into a room or we've walked into an event and we've said, you know, there's a bad vibe in here. You know, well, what does that really mean? Well, it really means that probably what you're feeling is that a bunch of people are thinking negative things. And you don't want to be in there because you don't like the way that it feels, because you want to feel good and you want to think good things. So you might say, hey, you know, I don't want to stick around here. You know, I want to leave. Or, you know, that happens to me kind of frequently. I mean, I'm very sensitive to energy. I feel that I can sense it and read it a little bit. So if we understand that we have these belief systems, these thought systems that are sort of very negative about ourselves, and we know or we understand that energy is attached to all of those things that we think, if we change some of our thought processes and some of our belief systems, then that would mean that we could then change our energy and change that which we give off and put out into the universe. And if that's true, which I believe it is, you may not, and that's okay, but I believe that it's true. So if that's true, then just imagine how the outside world can completely change if what's in here completely changes. So, you know, when people say, you know, why is mental health important? Why did you want to become a mental health counselor or a marriage and family therapist? Because it all starts here. It's all up in here. If you don't have this right, nothing else is going to go right. Your health is going to go wrong. Your inner feelings are going to be horrible. You are going to feel isolative. You're not going to want to participate in life. You're not going to want to build relationships. And it's just like a domino effect in a bad way. Whereas if you can sort of get your head right and think and get rid of some of your old negative belief systems about yourself and others, boy, that can really open up a whole new world to you, right? And that's what we do in therapy, at least my therapy. I can't speak for other therapists, but that's part of what we do. We look at those old belief systems. We look at those old abusive meta messages and messages that we've agreed to, that we didn't come up with, that someone else told us about ourselves, that we went, okay, yes, that's true, we believed it, and then started self-punishing, isolating, feeling badly about ourselves, and having problems in our relationships, having problems in our careers, having problems financially, and it all snowballs into a big old mess. So my job is to help lift people up out of that mess and move forward on a new vibration, you could say, in a new way. So think about that for a moment. So the next piece of this that's really sounds kind of crazy, but I do believe, is that the energy in which we produce, that we put out there, which comes from here to there, or from here just right out to there, to others, to the world around us, if we have that much personal power to make our lives really suck, we also have the same amount of personal power to make life really beautiful for ourselves and to not get sucked into other people's negativity and other people's stuff that they want to throw on us because they have problems. And remember, the way that people treat you and the way that other people behave is not a reflection of you, not at all. It's a reflection of them and the struggles that they are having and that they are going through. And it's important not to absorb or take on that negativity, those negative vibes, actually negative thoughts from other people. So imagine how you can really change your outlook from the inside through therapy or through working on yourself, through mapping out your belief systems in different categories of your life that you would like to improve. And imagine how that could change the world around you, or I would say the world in which you receive back. And it's really this simple. If you think about it and you go to, you go up to somebody and you say, I hate you. You're probably not going to get a really nice response back, right? You probably get a response back of, well, I hate you too. And then you're both going to feel bad. And then that is how you're feeling all day. And that can last and linger for days. Well, someone just came up to me and said they hated me. It was really weird and it was really uncomfortable. And, why would somebody say that about me? Is there something wrong with me? What did I do? And you're in that downward spiral that Alanis Morissette talks about in her song Tapes. And we do it to ourselves. We do it to ourselves. And we do it, I think, largely subconsciously. We don't even realize that we're doing it to ourselves, but we are. We're doing it to ourselves. But the beauty in that is that just the way we did it to ourselves, we can undo it. And we can then change everything around us. So, a lot of people may, I'm sure, have heard of concepts that I'm speaking about today, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like an oldie but goodie sort of model of therapy, and in my view, kind of outdated, but nonetheless, looks at feelings, thoughts, and behaviors and how they're all connected. And so I think when you're thinking about belief systems, that cognitive behavioral piece does, sort of intertwine with it. How we think affects how we feel. How we feel impacts how we think. How we think impacts how we behave. And how we behave can impact the way we feel, and so on and so forth. It's a loop. It's a never-ending loop. But that's not enough to know that. It's not enough to know that. And it's not enough to just say, okay, I'm just going to change my thoughts. No, it doesn't work like that. You usually need a lot of depth and a lot of therapy to actually be able to understand all of those negative messages that you've been fed, literally been fed by the people around you in your life since you were a baby, that has formed and influenced your view of self. your view of money, your view of your abilities, the view of your beauty. All of those things have not come from you. They have come from outside you. And you, without realizing it, have agreed to it all and said, yes, I am not pretty enough. Yes, I am not thin enough, so I'll starve myself. Yes, I deserve punishment, so I will cut myself, or I will starve myself, or I will throw up everything I eat, or I will ingest heroin and drugs and alcohol because I have to punish myself because I'm such a bad person. And it all boils down to that, guys. Everything destructive that we do to ourselves comes from these meta messages, these messages beyond what we're actually even realizing. So let me see. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Tanya and Taki. It must be a year for the Liz Live Show or something, because all these people are popping up as anniversary followers on Facebook. I have no idea what that means, but happy anniversary to us. And good morning to all the people watching on Instagram. There's so many people. Oh my gosh. Mahaila is here. That's somebody I haven't seen in years. How are you doing? I'm back in Miami, by the way. Tim is here. And Michael is here. And Bryden is here. And Courtney is here, and Martin and Ricardo, and well, good morning to all the people who have allowed me to see your names, and I'm waving to all of you on the screen. Wave, 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 and wave, and wave, and wave. Okay, so I think this is a really important topic, and I think that it can really change your life and the way that you view yourself. Okay, so let's take a big wrap from the beginning. Okay, big wrap from the beginning. So this is what I like to do when we conclude the show. So today's show is about the negative tapes that we play in our head that bring our vibes down, that bring our energy down, that bring our feelings down in a negative place. And understanding that all of that negativity and all those negative beliefs we have about ourselves didn't actually come from us, but rather they came from messages that other people told us about ourselves for whatever reasons. Whether it was well-meaning or not, we have agreed to all of those negative messages and formed belief systems from those negative messages that have been fed to us since we were babies and on up to adulthood and continuing. And until we really honestly look at what our belief systems are and break them down, as weird and scary as they may be, it's hard to move forward. It's hard to move on. It's hard to let go of those negative beliefs about ourselves. And then we just wind up down a bad path because somebody else told us we weren't good enough, and we went, yep, that's right, we're not. And we do it a lot just without even realizing it. It's so subconscious. We have no idea what's going on. So this show is to make you aware of that and to encourage you to map out your belief systems about different aspects of your life. I did it myself this week while I was, nursing a shoulder injury, and I did a lot of work on myself. And so I'm so excited because I get to share that work with all of you watching. And anyone who's my client you guys, that's what we're going to be doing this week. We're mapping out your belief systems, and I'm so excited because we're going to change them, and we're going to change the path of your life. And if you can identify these negative belief systems and then change them and really align with that which you want to believe instead of what someone told you to believe, you live more authentic to your true self. You put out different energy into the world around you, into other people around you, because your thoughts go from low vibration, negative, I don't like myself, boo-hoo-hoo, to, oh, you know what? Life is beautiful. I'm changing my belief system about all these things, and then you start changing the world around you just by changing what goes on in here. And we opened up, and I will try to close out with the rest of the song called Tapes by Alanis Morissette. And please, if you have never heard the song, you can just type right into YouTube, Alanis Morissette Tapes. I used to read the lyrics to when I was doing group therapy over, another lifetime when I worked at Aventura Hospital Behavioral Health Unit to clients that were hospitalized. And this is so important. And we all know what our tapes are. And they usually go something like, I'm not enough. No one will ever love me. I'll never make it in the world. I'm just not good enough. That's sort of the human belief system, sadly. And we need to be honest about that, look at it, and then work on changing that belief system. Okay? So, change those negative tapes to positive tapes. Work on your belief systems when it has to do with anything. And try to change the world around you by changing your thoughts, by changing your beliefs. And here's a little Alanis. See you guys Wednesday morning at 11. Thank you for watching Liz Live. Please follow me on YouTube, The Elizabeth 126. Actuation Counseling on Facebook, and Eliz Therapist on Instagram. Have a great day, everybody.